You just spent $849 on a 65-inch 4K TV. Samsung. Big box store. The salesperson said it was one of their best sellers. You get it home, wall mount it, sit down from your couch, and something feels off. The picture looks almost identical to your old 55-inch from 5 years ago. You move closer. You squint. You switch to 4K content. Still not sure you're seeing what you paid for. Here's what nobody told you at checkout. At 65 inches, the difference between a $479 TV and an $849 TV isn't always what you'd expect. Some $500 TCLs outperform $900 Samsung LEDs in real living room conditions. Some 4K TVs deliver nothing close to a true 4K experience from where you're actually sitting. And a specific cluster of models in the 65-inch range consistently outperforms everything above and below them in price. And most people walk right past them. That's the difference between a TV you love for 10 years and one you replace in 3. Wondering what went wrong? So let's talk about what actually matters at 65 inches. Which brands hold up? Which ones disappear after the return window closes? And which specific models sit in the sweet spot where price, performance, and reliability finally line up? The 65-inch size isn't a random number. It's the point where things get complicated. At 55 inches, most mid-range panels look fine from a typical viewing distance. At 75 inches, you've crossed into a price bracket where real differences emerge. But most living rooms can't properly accommodate that size anyway. At 65 inches, you're in no man's land. You're spending enough to expect quality. You're not spending enough to guarantee it. RTings.com has tested over 400 TVs in the last 4 years. Their data shows that 65-inch models have the widest performance gap of any screen size. The worst 65-inch TV they tested scored a 5.2 out of 10. The best scored a 9.2. Same screen size. Completely different ownership experience. That gap doesn't exist at 55 inches or at 85 inches nearly as dramatically. Why? Because 65 inches is where every major brand parks its mid-tier models. Entry level is 55. Premium is 75 and above. 65 is where they put the models designed to look good on a spec sheet without costing too much to manufacture. That's exactly where you need to be the most careful. Bottom line, 65 inches is the most price-sensitive TV size on the market right now. Picking the wrong model here costs more, in money, in frustration, and in replacement, than at any other size. Brand number 1, LG. The OLED king with a dangerous budget line. Let's start with the brand that owns the premium 65-inch conversation. LG's OLED TVs, specifically the C5 and G5 series for 2025, are the gold standard. Consumer Reports gives the LG C5 OLED its highest reliability rating in the TV category. Ratings scored the 65-inch C5 at 9.1 out of 10. The picture quality is genuinely class-leading. Blacks are perfect. Motion handling is exceptional. It's the TV that professional calibrators use as a benchmark. At around $1,499 for the 65-inch C5, you're not getting a bargain. But you're getting a TV that RTings projects will still perform at a high level in year 8 or 9 of ownership. Burn-in risk on modern LG OLEDs has dropped significantly since 2020. For most viewers watching mixed content, it's not a real-world problem. Now, here's where it goes wrong. LG also sells budget LED and QLED TVs at the 65-inch size. Models like the UR8000 and QLED 75 series that hover between $450 and $650. Consumer Reports gives these models a markedly lower reliability rating. The QLED 75 in particular has user reports on Reddit and Best Buy reviews describing backlight uniformity issues appearing within the first 18 months. One owner wrote, paid $599 for the LG QLED. After 14 months, there are noticeable bright patches in the corners. LG said it's within normal variation. I said nothing about my old Sony looked like this after 7 years. The name on the box is LG. The experience is not C5 level. Bottom line, if you're buying LG, spend the money on the C5 OLED. It justifies the price. Their budget LED models are competitive with mid-tier TCL and Hisense, except they cost more. Brand number 2, Sony. The most consistent performer, if you buy the right one. Sony has the best reliability data in the 65-inch TV category. Consumer Reports gives Sony TVs an excellent reliability rating based on owner survey data covering hundreds of thousands of units. Their projected 5-year failure rate sits at approximately 3%. For context, the category average is closer to 11%. The industry bottom dwellers are above 20%. 3%, that's the Sony number. It's not luck. Sony uses their own image processors, the Cognitive Processor XR in the Bravia 7 and Bravia 9, and maintains tighter quality control over their panel sourcing than almost anyone else in the market. The 65-inch Sony Bravia 7 sells for around $1,298. The Bravia 9, their mini LED flagship, is around $2,499. RTI Jeans scored the Bravia 7 at 8.6 out of 10. The motion handling in particular outperforms comparable priced LG LED models. Sony also has the best customer service experience in the category. Yale Appliance, which tracks real service call rates by brand, consistently places Sony among the lowest for in-home service visits. And when something does go wrong, which is rare, Sony's support process is one of the least painful in the industry. Owners report faster resolution, better communication, and fewer transfers compared to Samsung or Hisense. One owner review on Best Buy for the Bravia 7. 5 years ago, I bought a Sony and swore I'd never buy anything else. Just replaced it with the Bravia 7. Same experience, just works, picture is beautiful, never a problem. That's what 3% failure rate looks like in the real world. Bottom line, Sony is the safest bet in the 65-inch category. If reliability matters to you more than raw specs at the lowest price, Sony is where you spend your money. Brand number 3, Samsung. Dominant sales, complicated reality. Samsung sells more TVs in North America than any other brand. That's not a quality signal. That's a marketing and retail relationship story. The actual reliability data is more complicated. Consumer Reports give Samsung a good reliability rating overall, but that rating masks a wide gap between their product lines. The Samsung QN90D QLED, at around $1,197 for 65 inches, scores well. Ratings gave it an 8.3. It's bright, it handles HDR reasonably well, and it looks excellent in a well-lit room. For sports, daytime viewing, and gaming, it's genuinely competitive. The problem is what Samsung sells below that price point. The 65-inch TU690T Crystal UHD at $547 and the CU7000 at $649 are among the most returned TVs in their price range. Their projected 5-year failure rate, based on Consumer Reports survey data, is noticeably higher than Sony at similar price points. More importantly, Samsung's warranty claims process has a reputation. A consistent one. One Reddit user described their experience. Samsung 65-inch, 18 months in, panel issue, 4 hours on hold across 3 calls. Technician came out, said he needed to order a part. Part took 6 weeks. TV sat in my living room, broken for 6 weeks. Never again. That's not an outlier. That's a pattern. Samsung's QLED line, QN85D, QN90D, and above, is legitimately good. Their budget Crystal UHD line is where you roll the dice. Bottom line, if you're buying Samsung, spend a bit more for the QN85D or QN90D. The Crystal UHD line is a gamble that doesn't pay off when you lose. Brand number 4, TCL. The biggest surprise in the category, and not in the way you'd expect. Here's where conventional wisdom starts falling apart. TCL is a Chinese-manufactured brand that sells primarily at Walmart, Best Buy, and Costco. Their 65-inch 6 Series, the 65R655, sells for around $649. Consumer Reports gives TCL a fair to good reliability rating. RTI Jings scored the 65R655 at 8.1 out of 10. 8.1. That's better than Samsung's Crystal UHD line. Better than most Vizio models. Better than anything Hisense sells at a comparable price, for $649. TCL uses mini LED technology in the 6 Series, which delivers significantly better local dimming than the edge-lit panels that dominate the budget category. In a dark room, the contrast performance rivals TVs that cost $400 more. That's not marketing. RTANs measured it. But here's the catch. TCL's customer service consistently ranks below Sony and LG. Average call wait times reported by owners are significantly longer. Firmware updates on their Google TV platform can be inconsistent. Some models receive them reliably, others lag behind by 6 months or more. And while the 6 Series is well regarded, TCL's 4 Series and 5 Series are considerably worse. Same brand name on the box, different result inside. One owner on the TCL subreddit, 65R655, is honestly incredible for the price, but had a question about firmware, and it took TCL 3 days to respond to my email. Not a crisis, but not reassuring. Bottom line, TCL's 6 Series is the sweet spot buy in the 65-inch category if you want the most picture quality per dollar. Just avoid the 4 Series and 5 Series entirely. And go in knowing support is slower than you'd like. Brand number 5. Hisense, the brand that looks great until it doesn't. Hisense has been aggressive. Their prices are low, their marketing is loud, they sponsor major sporting events, and on paper, their specs look impressive for the money. The reliability data tells a different story. Consumer Reports gives Hisense a fair reliability rating with a projected 20% failure rate within 5 years. 20%. That means if you buy a Hisense today and gather 19 of your neighbors who did the same, 4 of you will have a dead or significantly degraded TV before the 5-year mark. Sony loses 3 in the same group of 100. Hisense loses 20. The most common failure points in Hisense 65-inch models: backlight uniformity issues appearing in the first 18 to 24 months, HDMI input lag problems on specific firmware versions that Hisense is slow to fix, and smart TV software that becomes sluggish within 2 to 3 years as the processor ages out. The 65-inch Hisense U75QG sells for $598. Consumer Affairs reviews for this model are particularly rough. The highest frequency complaint: panel issues appearing just after the 1-year warranty expires. By the time you notice it, you're outside coverage. By the time Hisense's support team responds, you've already decided to go back to Best Buy. One owner wrote, Hisense 65 U6K. Had it 14 months. Right side of screen noticeably dimmer. Hisense wants $220 for a service call plus parts. TV cost $499. I'm just buying a new TV, not Hisense. At $598, the Hisense U75QG is priced $51 cheaper than a TCL 65R655. That $51 difference represents an enormous gap in projected longevity. Bottom line, avoid Hisense as a long-term investment in the 65-inch category. Short-term viewing or a secondary room TV? Maybe. Main TV for a 5+ year relationship? Walk past it. Brand number 6. Vizio. The one that quietly disappointed millions of people. Vizio was the comeback story of the early 2010s. American brand, accessible prices, decent quality. That story is over. Consumer Reports gives Vizio a fair reliability rating. More telling, Walmart completed its acquisition of Vizio in early 2025 for $2.3 billion, primarily for Vizio's SmartCast advertising platform, not for its TV manufacturing operation. Walmart bought the data business. The TV manufacturing continues as a secondary concern. That ownership structure shows up in the product. The 65-inch Vizio MQ7 sells for around $699. RTI etchings scored it at 7.4 out of 10, below TCL's 6 series at a lower price. Local dimming performance is inconsistent. Blooming around bright objects in dark scenes is a frequent complaint. And SmartCast, Vizio's smart TV platform, is increasingly ad-heavy in a way that owners describe as intrusive. One Reddit user put it plainly: bought a Vizio MQ7 for $699. 2 years in, half the screen is darker than the other half. Support said it's normal wear and tear. Never buying Vizio again. The most damaging issue is software support longevity. Vizio has historically been slower than competitors to update older models. And with Walmart now focused on SmartCast's ad revenue rather than TV innovation, that trajectory is unlikely to improve. Bottom line, Vizio used to be a reasonable mid-tier choice. It isn't anymore. At $699, TCL's 6 series and Sony's entry-level Bravia models are both better options. Spend your money elsewhere. The 65-inch sweet spot. What the data actually points to. Here's the question you came here to answer. Where exactly is the 65-inch sweet spot? It's not at $479. At that price, you're in Hisense and Vizio territory, and the 5-year failure rates mean you're likely shopping again before 2030. It's not at $1,499 unless you're specifically going OLED. If you're buying a standard LED or mini LED at $1,200 to $1,500, you're in the zone of diminishing returns. The jump in quality from $800 to $1,500 in LED TVs is much smaller than the marketing suggests. The sweet spot is $649 to $1,199. At $649, the TCL 65R655 delivers mini LED performance that competes with TVs priced $300 to $400 higher. It's the best value in the category if you're comfortable with a lesser support experience. At $899 to $999, the Samsung QN85D gives you Samsung's actual engineering, not their budget compromise. Bright panel, excellent gaming performance, QLED color volume. Still not as reliable as Sony, but meaningfully better than their Crystal UHD entry points. At $1,098 to $1,298, the Sony Bravia 7 is the full package. Best-in-class reliability. RTI Gene score of 8.6. Google TV platform that receives updates consistently. The TV you buy and forget about, in a good way. And if you can stretch to $1,499, the LG C5 OLED ends the conversation entirely. Perfect blacks. Best motion performance in the category. A picture quality ceiling that LED and mini LED TVs cannot reach regardless of price. Bottom line, the real sweet spot for most buyers is the Sony Bravia 7 at around $1,298 or the TCL 65R655 at $649. One is the best value, the other is the best all-around investment. Everything in between requires a careful look at which Samsung or LG model specifically, because at 65 inches, the brand name alone isn't enough. What you should take away from this: 4 things to remember before you walk into any store or click any checkout button. First, brand name means nothing at 65 inches without knowing which model line you're buying. Samsung sells both an 8.3 rated TV and a 6.4 rated TV under the same name at similar prices. LG sells a 9.1 rated OLED and a 7.2 rated LED. Know the model number before you know the price. Second, the reliability gap at 65 inches is real, and it is large. Sony's 3% 5-year failure rate versus Hisense's 20% is not a small statistical difference. It's the difference between a decade of good TV and 4 service calls that add up to more than the TV cost. Third, the 65-inch sweet spot is not where the store pushes you. It's either lower than you think, the TCL 6 series, or higher in a specific direction, Sony Bravia 7 or LG C5 OLED. The middle of the shelf, where most of the Samsung and Vizio mid-tier models sit, is where the marketing budget is loudest and the value is weakest. Fourth, support experience matters as much as the product. Sony and LG OLED both stand behind their TVs when something goes wrong. Hisense, Vizio, and TCL are significantly slower. If peace of mind has a dollar value to you, factor it in before the return window closes. The single biggest mistake to avoid: buying a 65-inch TV based on sale price without checking the specific model's reliability rating. The $150 you save by going Crystal UHD over QLED or Hisense over TCL is gone the moment you're outside the return window with a problem the manufacturer treats as a warranty dispute. Do it right the first time. Which TV brand has given you the fewest problems over the years? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. If this helped you avoid a bad decision, subscribe. New video every week on the purchases that actually matter.